Okay, on today's video we're going to talk about animation, things that are flashing, stuff like that on your website, and how it's actually, believe it or not, cuts profit of what you're making from your business, or particularly your website. Could be a landing page as well, which is what also covered in this video. Could actually cut the amount of money you're making from what your website pulls in right now or a landing page pulls in right now in half or more. I have several actual case studies / situations where I'm going to let you know about people that had flashing and stuff like that on their website, sometimes a little bit of excessive noise that you basically, as you'll see by the end of the video, you don't want there, how that affected how much they were making, and percentage-wise, of course. So you can see, specifically why you want to basically stay away from it for the most part. Not to say there's always is a strong word. I don't want to say always will doing this stuff on your site drop your conversion rates, but it's enough to where if my advice basically to you is just don't do any of it. 90% of the time, I take away this stuff, I'm getting more conversion rate on the traffic we have coming to the site from our PPC campaigns. And that same stuff, as you are going to find out in this video, also applies to any other traffic sources you have. So PPC, Google ads, Facebook ads, they're not any different than organic traffic from Google or Bing or wherever you're getting traffic from. These things are inherently the same, all across the board. So when I say literally half the profit your website, potentially can make is only going to be there for, so you can make half as much money in total than if you had the animation and the sounds and all that stuff on your site versus taking it off. I really do mean it. So anyway, I'm going to go over a background about the type of stuff specifically I'm talking about here that will hurt your conversion rates, and therefore the specific kind of things that you could stay away from, i.e. avoid. And then I'm going to get into the type of results that ultimately that you can get, and basically what you should do to be able to gain more revenue from your site as it is. If you fit any one of these individual unique user categories, what you can do to instantly get more money from your same exact traffic you have coming in, and can understand and be confident why, with the examples I'm going to give you at the end of the video about specifically people that I've told to do this, but also help them through actually removing it. What kind of increase in conversion rates and increase in profitability we got from our PPC campaigns that I normally help clients out with here, since we're a PPC agency, but also from they're all their other traffic as well. As I mentioned before, this stuff just doesn't apply to PPC. This is a channel about PPC, but it also applies to everything else you're doing, respectively, with that website or landing page. So don't use animation or sound on your site or landing page. It cuts profits that you're generally making from that traffic you have coming in to your site as a whole from all traffic sources, half or more. So what type of animation does this actually apply to? What am I actually talking about here? So there's a few different categories. It isn't just limited to this, but I do have a short list of specific things that I see, the most common, that I've seen most commonly people do that hurts their conversion rates a lot, and to give you an idea of the stuff that it would apply to you, so you can go through this checklist, understand the type of stuff that doesn't work, think about what stuff is similar on your site, and then know ultimately what to remove to immediately get more profit from your site coming in without having to do anything else but that, literally speaking. The first one of which is like flashing / rotating / bouncing items. So, basically flash animation is what they usually called it back in the day. Now they have HTML5 for animation on websites, but either or, it's just any kind of animation on your site. It could be an outline around a specific, item, like to add some flash, if you will. It could be an item that's rotating or moving around or, whatever. It could be stuff that's bouncing up and down. I see that a lot. People think ultimately that people are trying to get cute with their design and they're working, and a lot of times it isn't their fault. They're just working with a designer who's trying to get cute. If you watched my other videos, I've mentioned many, many times that graphics designers aren't conversion optimization and money-making specialists. They're artists. A lot of times they get into doing what they're doing because they like art. These are not marketing people. These are not business people. If you let an artist run your business, you're going to lose out on a ton of money, and a lot of times you'll just never be successful with your site in the first place. You need to have somebody guiding the person making your website who understands marketing and business, first and foremost. And a top-tier firm that charges you, 50, 100 grand for a basic website will have that. Somebody that charges you 5 or 10 grand for a website is not going to have that. They're going to wing it. You're going to get a lot crappier results. So it may be cheap, but you may only make 25% of the money than somebody who's going to spend 50 grand for the website because they have a creative director who understands business like I do and what we do for our clients here when we direct them to make a landing page, which the landing page makes up 50 to 70% of the equation of whether or not a paid traffic campaign coming in actually makes money or not. So the other thing, second example on my list, rotating home banner or other banners. So very, very common, like on an e-commerce site, you're going to have on the homepage, people will have so you'll have your logo strip up top, then navigation, and then you got a banner that, gives the general idea of the site, if you will, like what that site does. But a lot of people will use a flash or rotating banner to where they'll have an image, and then 2-3 seconds later, there'll be another image, and then 2-3 seconds later, there'll be another image. And usually what they'll do on that, which even if you are going to do that, they aren't doing it the right way. It's it'll be we have this special, and this special, and this special. Respectively speaking, when somebody gets to your site, you can have something like that, but it would only have one special. But for the most part, what your homepage should be doing, sorry about that, we'll cut that part out. What your homepage should be doing is telling the person what they need to know about your website and then directing them first and foremost to the part of the site that's relevant to them, unless you only offer one product. But for the most part, I'm not going to even assume that here. And with that banner, you should be telling people, okay, we offer this, and this is why we offer it, and then here's something else we offer. But a rotating banner is not the proper way to go about doing it. And the reason why is, out in the wild, humans have evolved to through your periphery vision, pay attention to stuff that is moving, and then with that they easily get distracted as a survival mechanism. So and the reason why this also applies to all the rest of the stuff too, when stuff moves around, you get distracted. And so when your goal, the true pros in copywriting and landing page design, they understand that there's a process the user goes through. They don't randomly go through the page. They read the headline, and then you want them to read the subheadline, and then you want them to see the reviews, and then you want them to see the first section that talks about selling point 1, and there's a process. And when you just have something flashing around, the person constantly gets distracted by that thing that's flashing. So it screws up the order of things. And the natural progression of converting somebody, it'd just be like if you're selling to someone in person and you had someone screwing around with one of those, those signs that you flip around that gets traffic in, and they were constantly looking at this thing. This is the digital equivalent to what's going on here. A very idiotic thing to do, but tons of people I see are still doing it, and I apologize if you're doing it. Just, for your own benefit, I just have to, vent my frustrations here a little bit so that you understand the importance. But so with that, I've seen a lot of success within that banner area. Instead of having rotating, you just have let's say this is the place where the banner is. I'll have an image here, and then there'll be images side by side, and there would be. So each image, it would be we have brakes, and we have air intakes, and we have tires, and we have rims. That way you can do that same thing which is, again, the most important thing to get. If you want the most revenue can be generated from your traffic and site as possible, that homepage should be then good and as efficient as possible to quickly communicating what you do so that person knows that they're at the right place and then directing them where they should go. So that would be your workaround there. So you're going to have your conversion rates hurt by having the rotation there, which a lot of people don't know, and they have it for years, totally blind to the situation. And of course, on a landing page or any other sub page on your site, if you have usually the top part of a landing page has the headline and the subheadline before you scroll, or what they call above the fold, which is a old newspaper marketing term. So, but then above the fold, that stuff, if you have anything rotating up there, you're going to get hit way harder than any rotation stuff that's down the page, because people always see that. But then they'll have the headline and they'll have an image right here at the top relevant to the service or product that they're offering. But then that thing will rotate out with something else. And if you do that on a landing page, you're just completely axing about half of your sales, if not more. So that also applies to more than the homepage. I just see most people doing it on the homepage, therefore that's why I bring it up. I know that's not relevant to PPC directly, but just the other main offender that I see, other than like people doing it, that would be on landing pages and just on their website, and then would be directly relevant to where you would send traffic directly to on a PPC campaign. So anyway, the third thing is background items. So a lot of times they'll have, there'll be texture in the background that kind of moves around. And for the most part, that doesn't hurt as much. But again, I don't do that. For the reason specifically that I told you that it's distracting is the reason why you don't want to do it. It doesn't matter. So a lot of times, like you see different sites, they have like this. I see it all over the place now. There's it looks like machine learning, AI, and they'll have these lines moving around in the background. If you Google like AI nodes is what that is, you'll know what I'm talking about. But they'll have that moving around in the background, and they'll try to get cute, and that in itself will distract people. So you don't want that kind of crap either. It could be a sound on a hover. So very egregiously, people will, or should I say stupidly, they will have, if you hover over the navigation or on a button, it'll go click, which was done a lot like in the 90s and early 2000s. But a lot of people still have that on their sites. That is totally obnoxious. That hurts your conversion rate. Anything like that where you have hover over a button or navigation that's too gimmicky, you don't want. Now you can have, of course, it change colors, but don't have it have it glowing on the outside and have it click when you hover over it. That stuff's is too tacky, and that's gonna hurt your conversion rates. It looks too gimmicky. I know that from my own personal testing. And then, of course, a video. Never ever have the video autoplay. I don't want to say never has that ever not worked, but for the most part, it goes back to the distracting thing. A lot of people don't want to watch the video. Unless your video is the only thing on the page, then I would say maybe autoplay is fine, which most of the time it will be. But if you have like a video up top your landing page and then you have content down below that's not video based, don't have that video audio play. It's going to hurt your conversion rates. The same thing with the sound. So having it autoplay with no sound is going to hurt your conversion rates. Autoplay with sound is going to hurt it even more because it's double distracting. And anything else on that page you're taking people to, that if you have sound that's playing, or it doesn't have to come from the hover over, but it could just be sound from some other than a video, with some other animation, basically, that's going to hurt your conversion rates as well. Don't do any of that stuff. So anything flashing, moving, none of it. And anything sound-wise, unless the user deliberately wants to click on something that should have sound, that's the time you use sound. Okay? Pretty simple. So that's just a basic overview of what to do with your site and what, more specifically, what not to do. Okay? That's going to hurt your conversion rates pretty much every single time. Respectively, you can just say guaranteed will hurt your conversion rates. And with that, if you give me a website, what we do here, by the way, is I don't charge fees for clients up front. I say, okay, you double the sales from your site? okay, I'll do it. Once I do that, I want to charge you $3,000 a month to work together at that point to help you continue to improve your business. I'll give you the first doubling for free to show you that I know what we're doing here. And then from there, I got a locked-in client. It's on, so they have to agree up front. Hey, once we double your sales, you're locked into 12 months with me at $3,000 a month. That's the general premise of what we do here. If you give me a site with a bunch of animation on it, I'm just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, because I just know I'm going to remove all this crap on the site, whether they like it or not. I'll convince them of it, and then I got instant money. Very, 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 very easy to do, because I know it works every time. So all you have to do is give me that website with the animation. I'll take it off, immediately have unlike PPC with changes, you make the change. Google's got to analyze your changes. The algorithm's got to have to assign where to put your new ads at in terms of the shifting, the rotation of ads that are there on Google. The one thing that I like to prefer to work on landing pages first, because there is none of that. Well, there is to some degree, because Google analyzes your landing page and that goes into your results. But respectively speaking, if you can increase the conversion rate of the landing page, you got instant results. There is no waiting. You do it, you got instant results. And I like stuff. There's a few things you can do with the landing page or site that'll work every single time, and this is just one of it. This is the very first thing I'm looking for in order to get, if the client knows they want 50% or 100% more results, I'm looking to do that I know they can do basically for nothing, and then therefore that knowledge becomes very valuable to me at that point. And with that though, if you have this animation stuff, I know what you're saying. Well, I have it on this whole site. I don't want to redesign my site. No excuse. If this is on multiple pages, you can test adjusting that. Let's say it's the navigation that has a annoying hover over effect on the buttons when you hover over. That's too over the top. Like I said, none, because we use that on our own site at Guaranteed PPC. Just nothing over the top. You can adjust the navigation on all the pages just by adjusting the CSS, which if you're not a programmer, your programmer can do that relatively easy, so all the pages on the site update at once without having to do too much work. And if it's something, again, on more than one page, you can use there's two main programs out there that you can do this stuff relatively quickly and easily, and even sometimes without a programmer, one of which is Visual Website Optimizer, one of which is named Optimizely. They're like $300 a month, but this is so profitable. Don't be bashful in investing in it. I'm going to talk about these results in a minute. So, respectively speaking, it's cost nothing if you're doing more than a few $100,000 a year in sales already. But anyway, with that said, my average increase in profit that we're generating on the same traffic after we remove all this crap, 50 to 100% more profit depending on how much there actually is. The more of it is, if you have multiple things, if it's really, really gaudy and over the top, you're going to get more return from this. So it's like on a directly proportional scale. The more of it you do, the more you're going to basically be able to make here, bottom line. So anyway, with all that said, to sum it up, the reason why this universally happens, that all this stuff I mentioned to you hurts your conversion rates, there's actually 3 reasons. First of all, the first thing is people perceive it as annoying. So let alone the subconscious, they are not understanding, they're being distracted. They don't actively think about that when you have something on the page they're being distracted by, that's rotating or whatever, or there's animation on the page when they're trying to read something else, for instance. They actually a lot of times think it's annoying. When you're looking at a page and you're trying to find it out as quickly and easily as possible, am I in the right place? And what is this page about? I don't want all that crap going on. It's just, it hurts my brain. Okay, I just want to find out if I'm in the right place. And I have all that stuff, then I have to filter that out. But a lot of times, again, like I said, they won't actively tell you it's annoying, but if it's more subtle, they'll still be annoyed. Anyway, and I mentioned it's just distracting in general. So even though they don't think it's annoying, which a lot of times they will, depending, if it's pretty, tacky and advanced and over the top, it's going to actually literally distract them. Even if you think it's not much, it's a little bit, it's minimal. It'll, if there's any of that stuff on the page, you would be surprised how little it needs to be, or how little it can be, and still distract the user, which any little teeny distraction will hurt your conversion rates. It just matters how much. Then the last thing is just implying a lack of investment. So if you have a lot of that animation stuff on your site, because the bigger sites know what I'm telling you here, the ones that invest hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year in their marketing and for their website, they know this stuff like I know it. So they don't have it. Therefore, people know modern sites don't have this stuff. Only the older sites do. And so even though people don't know this like actively, people know like subconsciously that if they see the animation and all that stuff, they think it's an outdated site, and they pair an outdated site with a business that isn't the leader in the space, and therefore I can't trust it as much. And a lot of people just want to go with the most trusted option in your space. Some people want cheaper prices, but the other half or more just wants the most trusted option so I don't get ripped off, basically. And so that if I have a problem, I can call them up, I can complain, I can return, not have to worry about it, yada, yada. So that's its own individual thing that you may not think about as well. Now, next I'm going to, and finally I'm going to get into the examples of what stuff that I've actually ran into before, saw this stuff going on the client site, removed it, how much results we actually got, as I mentioned at the start of the video I would do here. So anyway, the first example is in a B2B, business selling to business service, offering engineering services. So I won't get into the specific service, like engineering type or thing that they offered to keep their campaign confidential here, but they had an actual landing page that they were sending traffic to, and I instantly looked at it, and they had the main call to action button that was on the page 2 or 3 times, which a lot of times you always have a call to action at the top and the bottom of the page for sure, and then sometimes in the middle. I've mentioned that on my videos about landing pages here, but basically on that landing page, each of the call to actions, since that same button is derived from the same code source through the CSS, that it would, the button say here, it's like contact us, and it was like like really cheesy. This again reminds me of like 90s and early 2000s. I've been doing this stuff for 15 years. I just remember a lot of this stuff was popular, and it actually did, work because it looked kind of advanced back in the day, but not anymore. And it didn't work as much as you think back in the day anyway, because it is still distracting. But at least then there was some purpose for it in some occasions. Now, no. Just keep it simple. No. Anyway, we removed that. 45% increase in ROI or ROAS, which that's short for return on account spent. So I had to do literally nothing else but that one thing, 45% increase. So this is what I'm talking about here. How you basically are just throwing a crap load of money in the toilet every month for something so small. This should be in the top of your priority list in terms of what you're focusing on today if you want to improve your marketing. So I can actually cut your profit in half, and it did in this case, just this one teeny tiny little thing. Anyway, that gives you a pretty good idea of how much this stuff matters. I'll go on to the second example here. This was a lighting product seller, which they sold product on their website, mostly through their website, through traditional e-commerce checkout. And they had a rotating banner on the homepage. So I talked about this before. This isn't directly relevant to PPC, but a lot of times our clients ask about how do we, they ask about other parts of their site, and I give them that free advice as a part of working with us on the PPC, because it helps us if we can help them grow their business, because they have more budget to give to us, basically. But I did exactly what I told you before, and instead of having a rotating banner, we did, like, here's the banner here again, and then there's different links to different parts of their site, which is focusing on the main their top selling categories here. So it wouldn't cover everybody, but it would cover at least statistically the top most commonly used parts of the site. So if they did fall into one of those categories, it was just a little easier for that person to mentally digest the page and get where they needed to go, which is all you need to do to pick up more money from your site. If you can do that over and over again on your site, you're going to keep making more and more money. So we did that, checked out what the top 5 most top 5 most traffic and selling categories of products on the page were. Did a banner like this, because I know that layout works. And with that, we got, so when you're talking about optimizing a whole site, and we're using a tool like Visual Website Optimizer, what that tool does is it allows you to track revenue per click, basically. Your goal is to get more revenue out of for every PPC click that you have. Revenue per click, because revenue per site visit, it's a little harder to measure because the site traffic varies a lot, but your PPC doesn't once it's fairly dialed in. So we'll try to get more revenue per visitor to the site. And some people were pointed to the homepage in this instance, not a lot, but some people were. And then they had paid traffic from a lot of different sources. They also have organic. So just across the board, on anything that they were using that actually got to that page, the home page itself, not a landing page itself, I measured that, and anybody who got to the home page now generated 71% more revenue per click from PPC or other paid traffic sources as a whole. Of course, anybody from non-paid sources, the revenue per visitor that hits the homepage went up, but again, this is specifically the people that we were directing to the homepage from a paid source, which is only a smaller, less than half of the traffic, but in some cases that did go there. We're now getting 71% more revenue per paid visitor we were sending to that homepage because it was appropriate to send to the homepage in that instance, and did so. And a lot of that had to do with we were running, like new customers get 10% off of their order, and then targeting people who buy these products on a regular basis and then sending them to the homepage. In that, we don't know what they want yet, but when they get to the site, now it's easier for them to figure out what they want. If you wanted to know how this whole kind of worked out in general, but that is the funnel, and that funnel is very effective. If you're not doing it, you target using a custom audience. You build a custom audience of all the people who've been on your competitors' sites in the last 30 days or searched for your competitors in the last 30 days by writing down in the custom audience there on Google Display Network the list of sites of your competitors, and then you come at them with a new customer offer, 10% off for all new customers, or 20 or 30. You get the sale, and then now you basically, if you can sell to them a couple more times, you've stolen that customer, that ongoing regular customer of your competitors, who's worth a ton of money, way more than the discount you got to offer them up front, and that's how you build up a great business for yourself. Anyway, that said, so 71% in that case, which is a little more than our 45% in our initial, where the button was involved, the bouncing button. Last example is a national B2B product vendor. So basically, this is like more of an industrial product. So this lighting vendor, it's a lot of all this is today. My examples related to B2B, but this stuff it doesn't matter if you're a local business or a national service or local product seller. All this stuff is the same way. But anyway, this particular company sold like bins where you put laundry in, and just like stuff like that a commercial like laundry and stuff would use, like dollies and stuff like that. So there's a whole variety of kind of products like that they sold. And anyway, their site was fairly old. To make a site like that with 100,000 plus SKUs on it, it's $500,000 to do it right, because there's so much stuff to enter in terms of description, writing, and there's all this other stuff. It's way more expensive than people think to build a big site like that. But what they had, because the site was 10 to 15 years old already, and they updated it some during that time, but fundamentally they made the site, the site itself is still on the same framework, in that because it's so expensive and time consuming to improve, they would just tack on small improvements to it instead of fundamentally make a whole brand new site, or so they thought was, to their best advantage to do that. They had a annoying hovering glow and clicking effect when you hovered over the navigation. They had on each page there was a navigation, of course, on the site, and also on the call to action buttons. So they're like an outer glow around the button a little bit when you hovered over, but the most egregious thing they did was have a clicking sound. So when you hovered over it, it went click. And so that's why I also talked about this in my list of things that I've seen people do that really, really hurts your numbers. Is anything clicking like that. You don't definitely want that, but it's too distracting to have too much of an outer glow around the button when you hover over it. It looks outdated, therefore people are going to think your site's amateur, but also it's just too distracting at the same time. Even though they're trying to go over the navigation, they're trying to read the navigation. They don't need to see an outer glow around the button. They definitely don't need to hear any clicking noise. So anyway, in that instance, I just told them, look, why do you have this? And then we ultimately just removed it. And I always have to, I'm like, don't believe me. Let me try it for a month or two. We'll see what in terms of the people that we have coming from our campaigns, what they do. And then you can argue with me after that. But I know what I'm doing. Because some people do, they don't want to admit they screwed it up for so long. If you just, their ego is a little bit involved. But with that, we just removed the outer glow and the clicking effect on all the call to action buttons and the navigation. And the conversions per session. So basically the model was, if somebody was looking, we would target people looking for individual wheel items like a caster, replacement caster wheel for a certain, like a product that had wheels on it, basically, that would hold laundry and stuff like that. Like I said, they sold. Instead of targeting people looking for caster wheels, it was 3-inch, caster wheel, or just to give you an example. So we would, if you sell a lot of products, you have that advantage to be able to do that, and you should do that because it's 3 times more effective and profitable to market the individual items and having ads for every item based upon people looking for specific items with specific features. And then though when they get to the item, a lot of times what they do, 30% of the time to 60% of the time, they'll go and look at other 3-inch wheels of the same variety if you have them. And so they'll navigate, so you wanted to make it easy to see, okay, if you don't want this, we have a few others like it, just like Amazon does. Here's your product. We have a few that have the same exact traits, but are a little bit different priced or a little bit different colored or whatever, so that they can quickly know. That's how you keep them on the site. The longer you keep them on the site from your paid ad, the more likely they're going to convert and become a customer. So in that particular instance, a lot of people, of course, can go to other sections to the site, and then they had that really nasty, crappy hover over effect on their navigation when the buttons and the outer glow, and with that, making it less tacky, all that other stuff. And a lot of times people search around for a long, long time before they know what to buy, and they come back several times. Believe it or not, remove that from the entire website. The paid traffic itself, not just all traffic, but the actual paid traffic itself from the Google ads, 109% increase in conversions per session. When I say per session, that means not per click, but like when, could say per click too, but the person got to the site, and at some point while they're on the site still, they converted into wanting a price quote, or they called, or of course they put their order through. A lot of times they called before they put their order through, but they had to do one of those things, and if you're referring to one of those 3 things specifically, got a 109% increase. With that, for me, more than half of that, I feel, is directly is because the site looked, again, outdated with it. And so that brought down the trust. A lot of people don't trust your website, or a lot of times people have a blurry logo. That'll kill your conversions because that's the first thing they look at. And if they say to themselves, They can't even make their logo not blurry. Why should I trust that their product's any good? And they have the right to think like that because it's right. So you can't take shortcuts on stuff like that. To, cut costs elsewhere. There's a bare minimum standard in order to make money with your website and paid campaigns. So you have to ultimately be there or not play with the big boys, if you will, big girls. So in that particular situation, that was the main thing on the website, though, at that time as well, that made it look like an outdated site. So we removed that. The trust went way up. You're, of course, a little less distracting as you're trying to navigate around and find, because they had the main navigation that went to different categories, and then you had on each page the sub-navigation that brought you to, like if you were looking at caster wheels, different sizes as well. And then down below you actually had the different caster wheels with that same size. That's how the navigation on the site was laid out. But basically, so depending if you're here on the navigation up top or on the side, all of it had that outer glow plus clicking effect. It technically also did the bottom navigation as well that had similar items. Didn't have the afterglow effect there, but it still was. When you hovered over it, it made the same clicking noise. So anyway, we removed it in any possible way we could, and there was a lot of, again, people having to navigate around the site anyway. Like half the people would search around to find out what item they should actually go with before they did go with it. And of the people that of course did navigate, they thought a whole lot different of the site, obviously, to get that kind of a conversion rate increase from what their paid traffic was bringing in. So anyway, that is the biggest example of how much results I brought in. This is very, very common stuff. 50, 100% increase in campaign ROI from what you're doing by clearing all this stuff up, and it's very, very easy to do. If you have any questions or would like to share any of your results and stuff like this that you've done, leave a comment down below. I get back to every person who leaves me a comment on this channel. I have a ton of other videos on different PPC strategies just like this. If you haven't seen any of my other strategies, you should check my other videos out. I have a personal blog that I write and talk about the other PPC campaign strategies that I use here to guarantee results for our clients, where I go through step-by-step on how to build campaigns the way that I do it here to guarantee the results for our clients. You can check that out if you would prefer to see what's going on and how to do PPC that's effective in that kind of way, or that kind of format. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this makes sense and was also entertaining to learn about and understand. But all it takes is just a small adjustment sometime to get a huge, game-changing result, whether your campaigns are a lot profitable or little or profitable at all. And you shouldn't give up looking for profitability on your campaigns, given all it takes is a small little change like this quite a few times to be on the other side of where you want to be and ultimately be able to generate millions of dollars in sales long term from what you're doing, just with one change like this, fundamental change that you need to make on your business. And